Good morning. We're going to start this meeting now. I'm Alita Exline. I'm your outgoing president. I'm calling this meeting to order. I'll give you all a second. Betsy thinks I should bang the hammer, right? I do have the gavel, but I'm not going to bang it. So welcome to our annual conference. I'm so glad to see you all. I'm glad that you could make it today. Again, I'm Alita Exline. I'm your outgoing president, so I'll be here for just a couple minutes. I've got a few business things to get through, but I'll make it quick. First, I would like to thank all of our sponsors, who you'll find out by the food. Please take a moment to say hello to them today. Without them, we wouldn't be able to have this wonderful conference. In particular, I would like to thank our gold sponsors, Taylor and Francis, and the American Mathematical Society. Thanks so much for your sponsorship. So the couple of business things we need to do is, first we need to approve last year's minutes, which were submitted by Betsy Peck-Leonard, our secretary. You'll find those in your packet. I'll give you just a minute to get those out, and then I'm going to call for your approval. I think I need a motion to approve these. Can I have a motion, please? Thank you. One of you people. Can I have a second? Okay. All approved? Any objections? Abstentions? I think that looked like an approval to me, so there we are. And we need to accept the treasurer's report submitted by Melinda Malik, our treasurer. Can I have a motion for that, please? Thanks, Leslie. And I'm going to take Phil as a second. Okay. And if you vote to approve, please raise your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? All right, I'm going to take that as an approval. Thank you very much. I'd like to take a moment to thank our board for this past year. If you're here, please stand up so that everybody can see you. Our board of directors includes our elected members, our SIG, that's our special interest groups, chairs, and our committee chairs, and they do much of the business of the chapter. I'd also like to thank the volunteers who work in our special interest groups and on our committees for your dedication. You may not have to come to board meetings, but I know you do an awful lot. And I would like to announce our election results for the next year. For Vice President, President-elect, we have David Brethauer from University of Connecticut. Is David here? I'm not sure that he was able to make it today. For Treasurer and Treasurer-elect, we have Jessica Adamick. Thank you. Thanks, Jessica. For Secretary, we have Alan Witt. Okay. And for Member at Large, Laura Cole. Thanks for all of you for being willing to volunteer for these important positions. Let's see. I have just a couple of announcements. If you're tweeting, the hashtag for this conference is ACRLNEC 2014. You will find on your table a yellow sheet of paper that is a fun activity for you to do throughout the day. Librarian scavenger hunt. I do have a quick question for Phil, which is, can you have a person sign in a box more than once, or is there only one? Okay, so each person only signs your paper once. Okay, so that makes it a little harder, but it means you have to meet more new people. And we are The board voted to make a change in the composition of our board in the coming years, and that is that we're replacing our 2-member at-large positions with 6 state representative positions. This is something that our membership needs to vote on, so you'll be getting a ballot in your mailbox if you're an official member within the next couple of weeks. So please vote on that. And I think that is all the business I have, and now I'm going to introduce Phil Waterman, who is the chair of the Conference Planning Committee and our incoming president. And I'm going to hand him this gavel. And then my job is done here. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita. The gavel. Growing up as a little boy in suburban Boston, I don't think I ever dreamt this big. One day, beholding the gavel that represents the presidency of the Association of College and Research Libraries, New England chapter. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I also want to thank Alita for her leadership of the chapter over this past year. We've been in very good hands under her more than capable and professional guidance. So I just want to have all of you join me in thanking her for her leadership. I'd also like to thank my fellow planning committee members. There are 18 of us in all who've been working over the last 10 months to pull this conference together for you. These are 18 people who volunteered to add a little bit more work to their plate, and I really appreciate all of the work that they've done to pull this together. There are too many to name them all, but they all have a little committee member tag on their ID so they can be identified, but they know how much I appreciate their efforts, and I hope you'll join me in thanking them also. And as I said, they are volunteers. It's a great way to get involved, and along with our theme today, it's a great way to advance your career and meet new people, gain new skills, all those things that are important to professional development. So if you'd like to get involved with the chapter, you can find contact information on the chapter website, or you can contact me directly. We're always looking for volunteers, and it's really a great way to get to meet some of the talented and great people that we have involved in the chapter. So I hope you'll consider volunteering for the chapter. Also, remind you our hashtag is ACRLNEC 2014. And also, I hope you will take advantage of having some fun with the scavenger hunt. We thought it would be a way to increase networking and have you meet some new people. So, and when you finish those sheets, there is a box at the registration table where you could drop those off, and we'll be posting the winners onto the website. And as it says, complete that, and you have the chance to win free registration to next year's conference. And then finally, if you have any questions throughout the day, there are volunteers that we have posted around the conference center. They have little blue identifying tags on their IDs. So if you have any questions, just ask one of them, and we'll do our best to help you out. And then finally, I want to close the business meeting now, so if I could take a motion to adjourn. Alita, okay. And a second? Sarah? Okay. All those in favor of adjourning? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion carries. Thank you. Now I'd like to go on to an even more enjoyable part of our day, and that's our keynote presentation. And today, I'm pleased to introduce our keynote speakers. Susanne Markgren is the Digital Services Librarian at Purchase College, State University of New York. Previously, she has worked in public and special libraries and as a career consultant and an adjunct instructor. She is a past president of ACRL New York and the current mentoring program coordinator. She has written articles, book reviews, essays, and chapters for a variety of publications, and has co-authored Career Q&A with the Library Career People since 2003. She holds a BA from the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, an MLIS from the University of Texas at Austin, and an MFA from Manhattanville College. With Tiffany Eatman Allen, she is co-author of Career Q&A, a librarian's real-life practical guide to managing a successful career. And it just so happens we have her co-author here too. Tiffany Eatman Allen is the Director of Library Human Resources at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill University Library. She works extensively with librarians, staff, and information and library science graduate students. She has served as co-chair of the Library Leadership and Management Association's Human Resources section, and currently co-chairs the ACRL Personnel Administrators and Staff Development Officers Discussion Group. She holds a BA and MLS from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She has published in traditional print media, including CRL News and in the Librarian's Career Guidebook, as well as several articles written online for liscareer.com. Additionally, she has served as co-editor of listcareer.com and as co-author of Career Q&A with the Library Career People since 2003. Their presentation today is entitled, Taking Control of Your Future, 11 Steps to Develop Your Career. Their presentation will focus on 11 simple and painless steps to add professional development into and charge up your career. And during the poster session after lunch, they will be at a table in the lobby to answer any additional questions that you have. There will be a Q&A after their presentation, but if you have any follow-up questions or would like to talk to them more in depth, they will be available at the table. And they will also have copies of their book available for sale there too. So I hope you'll join me in welcoming Susanne and Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susanne. Does it work? Hello? There we go. All right, there we go. Just a little bit of a delay. I'm Tiffany Allen, so by process of elimination, she's Susanne, I'm Tiffany, unless some imposter has gotten up here and taken over. So we just want to say thank you for having us today. We're very excited to be here. We hope that you are equally as excited about this. We love talking about this stuff. This is generally the point of the presentation where the speakers ask everyone to please silence their phones and put away their laptops and that kind of thing. We'll still ask you to silence everything, but we're going to ask you to keep those things close. If you have a phone or a laptop or a tablet, we're going to be taking some interactive polls throughout the presentation that will show your active responses as we are live. So keep those close. We'll explain it a little bit later, but I do hope that you'll participate. One thing we do want to stress is we're going to ask a few questions. This is anonymous. We're not going to ask for a show of hands. Everything will go through the website. You don't have to tell the person next to you how you've answered. So it is anonymous. So I hope you'll join us. All right. Well, thank you again for having us here. We're thrilled to be here to spend the day with you guys and to talk about one of our favorite topics, the importance of professional development. Thank you to Phil and the committee for inviting us. And we're excited to learn from you guys as well. So we're excited about the day. So how cool that we're all here participating in professional development while we're talking about professional development and learning from one another. So our title is 11 Steps to Develop Your Career. And you're probably thinking, why 11? Well, really, it's just, to one up 10. We just wanted to do it, one extra one. So. But, well, let me go to the next slide. There we go. We'll get it. But really, our true subtitle might be something like this. So an infinite number of simple and painless ways to develop, curate, invest in, advance, and professionalize your awesome career. It's a little too lengthy, so we went with the other one. And really, there's so many different ways, and we could be here all day talking about how we can do different things to invest in our careers. But we only have an hour, so technically less than that, because we want to save time for questions from you guys. So who are we? We are academic librarians with lots of years of experience. We've been working together as the library career people for a long time, for 11 years now, which is really hard to believe when I actually say that out loud. We have done a lot of stuff in that 11 years, but we've been writing consistently together as the library career people. We started out writing a column for an online newsletter. If people remember Info Career Trends, it was something that used to come out online, and we wrote the column as part of that newsletter back in 2003, and then the column morphed into its own site in 2007, and then into its own domain last year in 2013. So we wrote this book, Career Q&A, that came out last year. And the book deals with managing a successful career in librarianship. And it covers everything from getting started all the way through to retirement. It's based on our advice and our experiences, as well as the advice and experience of 19 other colleagues that we interviewed and had them submit writings for. So it's got a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different advice that's covered in the area in the book. And we also included a survey, information from a survey that we conducted. It was an international survey. When we got together to draft the survey, we realized we wanted to cover a lot of different topics. And we knew it was long, and we were thinking, no, maybe we'll get about 100, maybe 150 responses, because it was really, really long, and it covered a lot of different things. We were shocked when we got over 2,300 responses. It was a lot of data, and I was very excited. I don't know, I'm kind of one of those data geeks, and I get all excited about looking through the responses and stuff, so it was really exciting. Just a little bit about the survey. Not surprisingly, over 90% of the respondents held the MLS or the equivalent. All kinds of libraries were represented in the survey responses, but most came from academic libraries by just a slight edge. The age of the respondents ranged from the 20s to over 70, which was really, really interesting to collect that and look at that data. Like the profession in general, our survey respondents were overwhelmingly female. And while our respondents were strong in the humanities as an undergraduate discipline, there were also sciences, social sciences, and the arts represented. So, as part of the survey, we asked a lot about professional development. We asked about a number of areas, but we focused a lot on professional development. And that's what we're here to talk with you about today. So professional development is really central to managing your career. Professional development can help us in a number of different ways. From finding a job to finding a better job, it can also help with innovation and confidence in the work that you do and how you do it. There are a few themes that we're especially interested in when it comes to the importance of professional development, and that was engagement and creativity, which we feel go hand in hand. We think that engagement spurs creativity, and creativity spurs engagement.
You're going to hear those words a lot today. So I've been doing a lot of reading lately. I'm a librarian, go figure. And I came across this book called Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. Has anyone heard of her? She's a research professor in Houston, and she focuses her research, lately a lot of her research, on vulnerability. So she argues that vulnerability is our most accurate measure of courage. And this is from the book Daring Greatly. It has a longer title, which is listed in our recommended books at one of our end slides. But I found this particularly interesting and thought it was relevant to our discussion of engagement, librarian engagement, and how we engage with our leaders. And this is a manifesto to our leaders. This is only half of it because I couldn't fit the whole thing on, but there's a link to download the full version of it. But all of them are great. We all want to be inspired. We all want to take risks. We want to be engaged. And I like the last one a lot. So when learning and working are dehumanized, when you no longer see us and no longer encourage our daring, or when you only see what we produce or how we perform, we disengage and turn away from the very things that the world needs from us, our talent, our ideas, and our passion. Okay. So on the theme of engagement, this is a shocking statistic that I came across, and this is from the State of the American Workplace Report. It's a poll that Gallup does every year, and they've been doing it for the past, I think, almost 30 years. And you can get the full report on their website. But they've come up with this survey of 12 questions that they ask American workers. So this isn't just librarians, and I can probably say that we're a little bit, maybe a little bit more engaged than this statistic, hopefully. But they define engagement as employees who work with passion and feel a profound connection to their company. And then there's the not engaged, people who are essentially checked out, and probably all of us have felt not engaged at some point, maybe not all the time, hopefully. But the scary one is the actively disengaged workers. So they're not just unhappy, they're busy acting out their unhappiness. And they're taking others with them and just bringing the whole vibe down. So only 30% of the American workplace are engaged in their work. So kind of depressing, to say the least. Okay. So now begins the first part of our audience participation. So we're going to ask you guys some questions. To start with, we're going to ask you 2 questions. So if you can get out your phones, we can text our answers, or if you have a laptop in front of you, you can go to a website. So, and we are...
The first question is a test,
Yes.
just to make sure this works for everybody. So it's not directly related to the content of the presentation, but it does. It's to help you get familiar with technology if you haven't used Poll Everywhere before.
Right. And as Tiffany said, this is totally anonymous. Poll Everywhere does not keep your phone number or your data, so you don't have to worry about that. So what you do is you text a code, you text your answer to the number 37607. And that 37607 won't change. It'll be the same number. So once you have it in your phone, it'll be, the next questions will go a little bit quicker. And I know we're streaming live to Maine and Vermont, and so if you guys can see us and hear us, you guys can participate as well. And we're going to put this up.
All right, so the first question, what area of the library do you work in?
Right.
You see the code here for your response. You text that response to 37607, and we'll get a quick snapshot of our audience and see where people, what they work in. Looks like Public Services has the lead. What we should have done was ask if anybody was from Rhode Island so that you could fill out your yellow sheets.
Right. We're New Hampshire, the rare librarians. Crowd. Okay.
All right.
And some people don't like to be categorized, so clearly you're not catalogers, so that's fine. Or maybe you don't know which area you're in because you're doing everything.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, 58, good, that's great.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to our first question that relates to the content of today's presentation. Hopefully you're feeling a little familiar with the technology. So in your current job, would you consider yourself to be engaged, not engaged, or actively disengaged? Remember, this is anonymous. No one's checking your answers. We just want to benchmark against the Gallup poll.
It could be how you're feeling today. Not today, because we're all engaged right here. Yesterday, when you were at work, how did you feel? And if you're on a laptop, you can go to pollev.com/livecareer and answer from your laptop.
Oh,
Excellent.
so that's good to see that a lot of people are feeling engaged at this very moment.
Or yesterday in your job. All engaged right now.
Good.
Okay. It's kind of what we expected.
Yeah.
So definitely we're doing better than the American Workplace report, but but there's still some people not engaged.
Yeah.
And it was wavering a little bit, a couple actively disengaged. So
All right, we'll try to work on that today. All right.
yes, engagement.
Okay, so now that we've kind of tested the waters with this technology, let's take a look at the 11 ways or steps or ideas to develop your career. We've kind of divided this in half, so I'm going to talk about the first few steps, and then we'll move it over to Susanne. So the first step is assess. So when you're trying to figure out where you need to go, what you need to do, first thing you need to do is figure out what you have. So our recommendation is to take stock of what you have and take stock of what you need. This is a tip that we like to offer a lot of people, and I don't want anybody in the room to panic, especially if you're a supervisor or a director. But we encourage every single person to look at vacancy announcements. Not because you're on the job market, not because you're going to leave, but because it's a great way to see what tools or technologies or skills or experience are trending in the marketplace so that you can keep your skills up to date. It's a great way to assess what you have and what's in demand and make sure those are in alignment. And if they're not, then you've got a gap. So that moves you on to step 2, which is formulate. You got to map out a plan. So you've identified your strengths, your assets, whatever you want to call them. You've identified what you're lacking, what you might need, what you need to develop. You got to map out a plan and figure out a way to get yourself there. Figure out the way to close the gap. The next slide will show you. In our book, we set up this template with kind of a to-do list. We talk about setting SMART goals. Everybody knows what SMART means, but and drafting a plan that includes what you need to do within a realistic time frame. This is really important, I think, to map out a plan. But the second part of that is to hold yourself accountable. How many of us set New Year's resolutions and then never follow through? You know, I'm going to cut back on desserts, or I'm going to eat more vegetables, or whatever. It's a really hard way to hold yourself accountable to those things. Some of us are lucky enough in our jobs to have accountability measures built in. Maybe our annual performance appraisal includes a goal-setting section, or a self-assessment section, or our tenure documents do that. The rest of us who don't have that have to be very self-motivated and very self-directed and very self-disciplined to follow through. But for everyone, we recommend that you identify what you need to get there, and then you write it down. It really, really reinforces that this is a plan instead of just something you've made up in your head. The next step, we encourage you to network. Now, I think this yellow sheet idea is brilliant. I'm going to take that back with me and use it in different places because it's a great way and a formalized way. I know it's a big word, but it's a formalized way to really put yourself out there, and that's really important. We're all here today for a lot of different reasons. Some are the same, some are different. But I hope that one reason we're here is to meet and mingle and talk and share and learn from each other, and that's really important. One of the things one way to extend that experience beyond today is to grow and develop and rely on a professional network. And I really, really liked this quote. I'll read part of it to you, not all of it, but let's face it, a lot of us in here are introverts. We think we're saying hello to people, but it's just in our head, you know, right? Like everybody's blissfully moving around each other, and it's very social in our heads, but we really need to kind of get out there. So networking is both an art and a science. And in the end, it should be fun. I know that's scary, but it should be fun. Fun and exciting and rewarding. And one of the things that I really liked here is if you're always learning, you're growing and developing yourself. And that's what a network is for. Okay. And that brings us to the next one, which is learn. That's our next step. Another reason we're here today is to learn. Learning leads to engagement. And engagement leads to better work, better outcomes, and a stronger workforce. A stronger workforce leads to more exploration, more questions, and more engagement. We call this a positive upward spiral. Who's experienced a downward spiral? I have, where things just keep happening and you're just, you're beaten down. What we're trying to do is counteract that by creating a positive upward spiral. I was reading an Edutopia article the other day, and the author states in it that this quote, "As a teacher, my goal was to go home at the end of the day with more energy than I had at the beginning of the day." Really, after working a whole day, that seems so counterintuitive, but who wouldn't want to go home with more energy? So that grabbed me, and I kept reading. He goes on to talk about how by creating an active learning environment in his classroom, his students engaged in the tasks and they asked deep and interesting questions. As a teacher, he experienced pure joy from that, just pure joy. And he says, joy is a lot less tiring than the frustration that comes with student apathy. And I believe that's very true for the workplace too. We believe that by creating opportunities for growth and learning for ourselves and for others, we're creating opportunities for engagement and reinforcing that positive upward spiral. And again, who doesn't want to go home with more energy than they came to work with? So we should recharge at work. So the next step, seek. You should seek opportunities for growth and learning. Don't just wait for things to happen to you. You can do that sometimes and it works out just fine. But a lot of times being passive, you miss out on a lot of things. So we want to encourage you to take an active role in this. Seek advancement, seek partnerships, and seek funding. That's really important too. There are times to stay put, and what you want will come to you. And there are times to go out into the world and find such a thing for yourself. That's really, really important. All right, so we're going to take a quick pause. We're going to jump back into our technology. We're going to ask you a couple of questions. So if you have your phones or your laptops, we're going to jump into question 3. Does your current employer support your professional development activity? Again, this is anonymous. Nobody sees what you're texting. You've got, yes, very supportive, some, but not as much as I'd like, very little, and not at all. I realize we're a bit of a self-selecting group here. We're at professional development. And it may skew positive, but that's okay. That's good.
You're all here. Probably you're being supported, hopefully.
Some, yeah, that's good. Looks like we've got a lot of very supportive. Good.
And probably most of us would say some. I mean, you can always, you always want.
Always room for improvement, right?
I want to go to every conference.
Yeah, very supportive. That's good.
Excellent.
All right, thank you. So we're going to go to the next one. And I think this is a real interesting question. The economy is picking up, so we hear. Opportunities are coming available. Are you thinking about changing jobs? Yes, actively. Possibly someday. No, I am happy where I am. All right, results coming in. It's interesting. So one of the things I would say is if you're a supervisor, especially of people in this room, you might want to continue to find ways to engage and actively support your employees. They may stay with you, they may move on, but what you've done is built a relationship that will sustain a professional a lifetime. So, all right, so next steps, we're going to move on.
Moving on, everything is more fun and less intimidating with collaboration. We love to collaborate, as you can see.
We call it partners in crime or safety in numbers. That's what we say all the time.
Exactly. Like, should we do this? No. Are you going to do it? Maybe, if you do it. All right. So when you collaborate, there's many benefits to it. You have someone to share the workload, obviously. You have someone to sound ideas off of and to discuss things with. You have someone to motivate you, which is very important. And likewise, someone to hold you accountable, which I think is probably the most important. Tiffany's very good at setting deadlines for us. I love a deadline. And then I have to hold up my end because I'm accountable to her or to whoever my collaborators are. And you have someone to share your successes and commiserate with you if you fail miserably. So we had one of our survey questions on our survey for the book was, what's the best thing about collaboration? So we culled through all these answers, and these were some of the ones that popped out at us, or people answered similarly. So pooling of resources, knowing that you're not alone, different points of view, and just getting yourself out there and doing stuff that you might not normally do if it was just on your own. And then the last one I like, projects developed with others tend to have better outcomes and more staying power, which I thought was quite interesting. And it's important when you work in small libraries. I work in a very small library, and I'm the only one that does my job, so I find it very important to go out and collaborate with and meet with other librarians in my area who do the same job as me, because they understand me, where sometimes in my own job, people are like, oh, what do you do again? I have to explain myself to my own colleagues. Yeah. All right, so this one is kind of specific, and I don't want to scare you, and you might think, oh yeah, easy for you guys wrote a book, and you guys are up there presenting a keynote. Yeah, right. But if you would have told us a few years ago that we would be here today doing this, we'd be like, you're insane, you're crazy, or that we would have a book and that we're, marketing our book. No, we'd say, no way. We would never get that far. So anyway, it doesn't have to be a scary thing, and not everyone needs to write or present. As academic librarians, some of us might be required to do so for tenure. But if you think of writing and presenting as basic communication skills that are so necessary every day, we write every day, we present every day, we speak, we need to talk up in meetings, we need to make our voices heard and get our ideas out there. So if we think of it that way and we kind of start small steps, and we practice and we hone these skills of writing and speaking or presenting, it's not so bad, and it makes it not as scary anyway. And the most important thing, I think, is to have fun with it. So write what you like and have fun. I'll let you read that, but I was speaking with a faculty member in my college the other day, and she's written a few books, and she was asking me about our book and about our collaboration, and I said to her, yeah, it was really fun. It wasn't as hard as I thought. It was fun. And she looked at me like I was crazy and said, I have never heard anyone say writing a book was fun. But that's a faculty, she's a political science professor, and she has to do this. So when you step back and say, I don't have to do it, I want to do it, even if you have to do it over here, you can have a little side project over here of stuff that you enjoy writing and presenting. So I wanted to share this image and this quote from Austin Kleon. He's written a couple of really great little books. His first one is called Steal Like an Artist, and then the second one is Show Your Work. And these are amazing little Bibles of inspiration, I call them. Really easy to keep in your bag or your purse, and really easy to read through. They're great for people with short attention spans or people with kids, which is one and the same. But he talks about stealing like a writer. He's got some great ideas here. Step away from the screen. He talks about writing things down in a notebook. Keep a daily routine. So we've heard that before, practice. And write something that we'd want to read. So his advice, and we always hear people tell us, write what you know, write what you know. And he says, no, write what you like. Write what you want to read. So I like that advice, and to make us want to do it, we should make it be fun and make it be something that we would want to read. We're not all, reading the Journal of Academic Librarianship for pleasure, right? So think about the journals or the books that you are reading in your professional life. And think about those little articles and how you can maybe get yourself out there. And if you can write for a newsletter or write for a blog, there's probably someone in this room right now who's writing about our presentation to put an article in the newsletter, right? Am I right? Anybody? What? You will be later on. You're taking notes. You're gonna write.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. All right. So the final thought is to keep it fun and write what you like. Okay. So the next one is create. So maybe you've gone out there and you're seeking opportunities and you're not finding what you need or what you want. And there are many constraints in all of our lives, whether it's money or time, geography. We can't travel all over. Or family, like we can't do things in the evening. I have a colleague who just can't do stuff in the evening because she has to go home to her 2 little kids, and she's always like, why aren't there meetings in the morning or during the day? And other people, it's the opposite. They can't leave in the day. So sometimes we need to create our own professional development opportunities. And oftentimes when we have a constraint, it makes us be more creative. So this was a great quote from another book that I've been reading called Creative Confidence. So given a choice, most of us would, of course, prefer more budget, more staff, and more time, but our constraints can spur creativity and give us the confidence to embrace them. So this is just an example. Sorry, that photo is a little bit dark. You probably can't see it. But as Phil mentioned before, I'm on the board of ACRL New York, and I'm the current mentoring coordinator. And the mentoring group and the New Librarians Discussion Group collaborate, and we present, or we put on events, panel sessions, workshops, at least one time a semester. Really, it's just me and one other person, and we're trying to get stuff together, so it takes us a little bit of time. We did this a couple weeks ago, demystifying the hiring process, and we got 4 people that we knew. Some of them were directors. They were from different colleges, universities. There was a community college person, and they all had experience on the hiring process. And we came up with a list of questions, and then we asked people when they registered for the event to give us questions for the panel. We had 24 people come, and it was a really lively night, a lively discussion. It was in the evening. We had wine and cheese, which is always a big draw as well. Highly recommended. But probably about half the people there were library school students or were just about to graduate, and then other ones were recent graduates who were looking for work. There were some that were changing careers, looking for new jobs. So really fun event. And so I consider that we're just brainstorming and thinking about what does our community need for professional development, and how can we offer it to them, either for free or for very low cost. Okay, so yes, fail. Don't be afraid of failure. If you don't try, you can never fail. So failure can be a good thing. And there's a lot of quotes out there about failure, and this is something that it's spoken of a lot in a lot of the books that I'm reading. And I went to a leadership conference a few months ago, and one of the speakers talked about he encourages his staff to experiment with new things and do innovative things by calling everything a pilot project. So I thought that was pretty cool. So if we just call everything a pilot project, we lower everyone's expectations to succeed. And he says he'll 5 years later, it's still a pilot project. It gives you more leeway, I think, and changing things about and being like, oh, well, that didn't work. It was a pilot. Let's go in this direction, or let's try it this way. So I thought that was a pretty cool idea. So call everything a pilot project. And then remember, it's really about the process. It's not about the final outcome or the product. It's what you learn along the way. So don't be afraid to voice your ideas, to start something new. And then when you fail, you learn from it, and you try again with experience. Okay. Redefine, and you can become a beautiful butterfly like this. So this kind of goes back to the first step. So we're kind of going in a cycle now where we're originally assessing our skills and assessing our goals. So we have to always remember to reassess and reevaluate and redefine. And especially after we've done a lot of professional development, we've added to our skill set, we've learned new things. We need to go back and look at our materials, our resume, our CV. We might want to look at our job description or our job title. Probably what we're doing now in our jobs, we weren't hired to do maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Everything changes. We're in a rapidly changing profession, and I think we need to keep updating our skills, ourselves, our libraries, our roles, because we're all probably doing 2 or 3 different roles now, or moving in different directions, and adapt to the changing needs of our patrons and the changing technology. So redefine is important, and these are just a couple of quotes from some of the people I already mentioned, that Brené Brown and Austin Kleon. But Austin says the thing is, we're not really starting over. We don't lose everything. We're just learning from everything that we've done before. And it's going to all seep together, and we're always changing. So I know there's people who are very against change, and I'm sure we know people like that, and they just stay in the same role, the same title, and they don't want to, but everything around them is changing. So if we don't adapt, we're not going to move forward in our careers. And the majority of the people in the room said, yeah, someday I might look for another job. So I love that mindset. I mean, nothing is static. You can't, even if you have the best job in the world, who knows what might happen? You might not have it forever. You might not have it in 1 year or 5 years. So you should always be thinking about the future, always be bettering yourself, and thinking about the possibility of that next position. Where would I like to be? What skills am I lacking? And how can I get them? Okay, so sharing. We love to share. And I love this little quote here on the typewriter. I hate to spoil the ending for you, but everything's going to be all right. And that's a good thing. So we need to share what we've done. So sharing is very important. It doesn't do us any good if we're doing all this stuff in our own offices in the background and nobody knows about it. So no matter what it is we're doing for professional development, we need to share it with our colleagues, our supervisors, our libraries. We have to bring back our knowledge, our new skills, our ideas, and share it with those around us. And not only that, we need to create new opportunities and share it with the people who can learn from us. Okay, and sharing, let's see. Okay. And now we have, speaking of sharing, we would like you guys to share your professional development goal with us.
So this, again, we need your phones and your devices to, this is a little bit different. We're not going to ask you to select a response. We want you to actually type in the text and text it to 37607, and the answers will pop up on the screen. So you can actually type out a full sentence. You can just give us what step you're most inspired by of the 11 steps, but you can give us anything you want to that relates to your professional development goals or your professional development plan. Oh, good one. To become an expert at everything. Isn't that what librarians are? Yeah. Oh, very nice. Get through. I don't see us survive yet. Yeah.
Always learn. I like that.
Wow, look at these coming in. Superhero. To grow a second head. Is that for a department or for your own personal use? Yeah.
That'd be nice. I'd like to clone myself, then I can be in 2 places.
Oh, I see someone's working on their degree. That's great. Inbox 0. I am so with you on that.
It's a dream.
I actually had a dream one day that I accidentally deleted my inbox. That's bad. That's bad when you're dreaming about it. All right. So as these are popping up on the screen, we want to just close by telling you our story about how we got here. And we're going to kind of tell it together. But we we have used a lot of these steps ourselves they come together in how we got here today. 11 years ago, a call was placed on a listserv for volunteers who wanted to answer career questions as part of this online newsletter. And I had some experience on hiring committees and staff development and in personnel, and I thought, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I would like to write more. This is something I have assessed as a need in my career, so I would like to give this a shot. And maybe I have something that I can share. So I wrote in and said, I'd like to do it. And so did Susanne. And then we were both contacted by the newsletter editor who said, hey, look, out of all these folks, I want you both. Would you be willing to do it together?
Yeah, and I think at that point, as I told Tiffany earlier, I think we both, I felt a bit of a relief, and I was like, yeah, if I can do it with somebody else, I never even thought that. So it was a big fat yes, and we took it from there, and we answered 3 questions a year. It was pretty formalized. 3 questions a year, I think. The Info Career Trends newsletter only came out
right.
a few times. Yeah. So
it felt like 3 a day, but
it wasn't a huge commitment.
Yeah.
So we started very small
yes.
and very slow, and we found out that our writing styles were very similar. We collaborated quite well. We disagreed on things, which was great, but mainly we agree. But good to have different opinions. And we both work in very different roles and very different types of libraries, even though we're both academic librarians. And we had both worked in other types of libraries because we're answering questions not just from academic librarians.
So one of the things that I found was really interesting was that we did all this work together for years, and up until 2013, we met twice, maybe in person. So we were doing all of this. I was in North Carolina, she was in New York, and we did just fine doing this remotely. We found that when we did meet at conferences, those 2 or 3 times, we really liked each other, so that was great. That was a bonus. And then we got together and we were invited to submit a proposal for a book, and at the time, like Susanne said, that is not something that either of us had aspired to do. A book out of us, have you met us? We're simple librarians. We just do our job. But
we didn't have to. That was a big thing too.
Yeah,
it wasn't required.
It wasn't required.
Either one of us.
So we got together. We talked about it. Mapped out the proposal. Would have never done that on our own. But totally did it together. It was fun. I know that sounds hard to believe, but. Doing it together, it was a blast. We divided the work. Our writing styles are so similar. We were telling last night at dinner that we read the book now and we can't remember who wrote which chapter because we went back and forth so much. So we feel like it's one complete work. And that experience led to this experience, which we're just really, really grateful to have shared some time with you today. And if we could just leave you with anything, it's just seek opportunities and don't turn anything down. Just do what you want to do. Find someone fun to do it with. One door leads to another, and it really can be a great time.
Just say yes.
Yeah, just say yes. All right. I think we get to take questions. Is that right? Yes.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. And just to go back to the slides, we do have. A list of some of the books that we talked about are listed here, and we also have, sorry I don't want to rush over that too quickly, but our slides are online at that URL, so you can go back and look at them if you want to and get the, yes. So make sure that when you're asking a question, please talk into the mic so that everyone can hear you and the remote users can hear you. Don't be shy. They're busy thinking about their professional development goals and all the stuff they need to do. Oh, Mike.
Yeah,
Wait for the mic.
It's coming.
I noticed that you didn't mention mentoring at all as part of professional development, which I've always thought is a huge part of it. Can you address why or how you feel about that?
You know, there's so much to cover in all this, and yes, I do agree that mentoring is a huge part of professional development, and I think that it can be formal or informal. Because of time, I cut out a story that I was going to share originally, but I'll share briefly with you now. But it came under the pilot. When we call everything a pilot, it really lowers the barrier. In our library, I started a mentoring program 2 years ago, and it was something that we had heard for the longest time. We need a mentoring program. But when I would dig deeper, it was, it should be for new librarians. No, it should be for senior librarians. No, it should be for middle management. It was all over the place. So finally I said, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to start one. We're just going to get one underway. We're going to call it a pilot and see how it works. That way we have the latitude to do what we need to do to change it, to make it better. Just this last month, I looked at some statistics, and a third of our staff have participated in that program, either as mentors or mentees. And we just last month made it official. We're no longer a pilot, but we decided to do it for any newly hired librarian, so at all levels. So as people were coming in, they were welcomed. They have a year-long connection with someone outside of their department who's one rank ahead, so they can have advice and get advice on the ranking, appointment, and promotion process. They're outside of their division, so we can foster cross departmental collaborations. I mean, we just put together a program, called it a pilot, and it's been great because people come in and they get to know people they wouldn't otherwise get to know. I work in a very large academic library and with multiple geographic locations, so bringing people together who wouldn't otherwise have the chance, I think is going to be very powerful, and it's going to be able to spark a lot of partnership and a lot of creative ideas. So mentoring is fantastic.
And just to stem off of that, I mentioned the mentoring program at ACRL New York that we also started a couple years ago, because we've been talking about it for years, and finally I was like, I'm just going to do it. And it was kind of just me with a few people helping me. But we have it formalized, but we did start it as a pilot project as well. And there's it's the New York City area, there's a ton of libraries. A lot of them are smaller libraries. We do have some big ones. But we had heard from people that they wanted mentors from outside their institution, and that was important. So that was the goal, was to pair up people from different institutions so they could learn from one another. So yeah, mentoring is hugely important.
Hi. I was wondering if you think there's a relationship between personal development and professional development, and what that relationship might look like.
Absolutely, that's a great question. And I think that, yes, there is a relationship, and I think it can be a really positive one. And I have personal experience with a colleague who has really taken a personal interest and turned it into an academic professional interest, and it's been a beautiful thing to watch. About 20 years ago, a colleague had a free ticket to use, and it was the holidays, and the only place that they could get him to was Australia, and he wanted to go somewhere big, and he said, okay, I'll go. And on that trip, he discovered Aboriginal art, which became a real personal interest of his, and over 20 years has gone back and forth, collected art, studied it, and started writing on it. And now he writes a blog, or he has for several years been writing a blog, a personal blog. But it's, in some ways it's great because it taught him the technology, it got him out there. But then that's just the baseline. He's really now recognized as one of the leading collectors of a specific type of Aboriginal art. He writes about it in depth and brings in a great deal of knowledge and history. And I forget exactly what it is, but his blog has now been archived by a part of the Australian government because it contained such rich cultural resource information. So that is where your personal interests spark a professional interest and can really grow. I think anything that you do as a person to develop yourself, inspires yourself, kind of build creativity, it's going to spill over, and it's going to make you a better employee. It's going to make you a better person, which we all want to hire great people, right? Yeah.
There's one over.
Are we on?
Yes.
Okay. I just was wondering if you had any advice, along with networking, self-promotion I think is one of the hardest things for many of us. So I was wondering if you had any advice for how to get over the, well, why would anybody care about what I have to say hump? That I think inhibits a lot of people from wanting to do presentations, from wanting to write papers.
That's a very good question. And I'm supposed to repeat the question. Sorry, we forgot earlier. So how to promote yourself and get over the kind of inhibition to, to share your work. So I want to give a plug again for these books that I've mentioned, especially this wonderful little one I'm holding, Show Your Work. And I mean, you have to do it. I think you just have to say, I don't care what people think. I'm going to put stuff out there. And it's so easy nowadays because we have the internet. So we can just put stuff up on a blog, put it on a web page, shoot out an email, share stuff with people. We can tweet about it. We can put it on Facebook. It's very easy to share our work. Getting over the kind of inhibition thing is a little bit harder. I think that takes a little bit of a shift. So we just have to, I think the more you do it, the more you'll get used to it, and then you just keep putting stuff out there. And if it fails, you learn from it, you move on, you change it, you make it better, and you keep putting your stuff out there.
I also think that there are institutional cultures. There are libraries that are in the press a lot, and they put their people out there a lot, and there's an expectation that their people do this kind of work and promote their kind of work. And then there are other libraries where you do a good job, and that's just how we roll. That's just, you do a good job, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're not necessarily supposed to talk about it, because that's the standard expectation, is that everybody excels. It's really hard to do that, when you're in a culture where that's standard operating practice, to be great and not talk about it. It's hard to put yourself out there, but I can't tell you enough. If you get enough people who start doing it, and it's not self-promotion, it's sharing with the profession. I think it's a shift in mindset, because if you have something that succeeds and it works really well, imagine how powerful that can be for someone who's looking for the right answer. When someone steps up to our desk and asks us a question, we don't say, I don't know if I want to give you this because it may make you think that I'm really smart, and no, we give them the answer. And that's what we need to be doing with our colleagues. We need to say, look, I've done this. It worked in this situation. It may work for you as well. So don't think of it as self-promotion. Think of it as sharing with your colleagues and with the profession.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you. We're going to be around most of the day, so if you guys want to come and talk to us and ask questions, we'd be more than happy to talk with you. And thank you again for having us.